For over 80 years, America held a power no nation in history ever truly had, the ability to print money that the entire world was forced to accept. But what if that power is no longer guaranteed? What if I told you it is not collapsing suddenly, but quietly, step by step, slipping away in real time? And what happens next will affect every single American, rich, middle class, or struggling, in ways most people are not ready for. Before we go deeper, comment below and tell me where you're watching from, because this story is bigger than one country. And stay with me until the end, because it gets darker before it becomes clear. Let's go back to 1944. World War II is still raging, and global leaders gather in a small town called Bretton Woods. In that moment, they design a financial system that changes everything. Every major currency is tied to the US dollar, and the dollar itself is backed by gold at $35 per ounce. That decision gives birth to something economists later call exorbitant privilege. In simple terms, it means the entire world needs US dollars to trade, to buy oil, to settle international debt. And because of that, America could spend more, borrow more, and print more while the rest of the world absorbed the consequences. No empire in history had ever held that kind of advantage. Now fast forward to today, 2026. That privilege still exists, but it is no longer as strong as it once was. The US dollar once controlled over 70% of global foreign reserves. Today, that number has fallen to around 57%, the lowest in decades. Some will say that still means dominance, and technically they are right. But here's the real question. What matters more, where something is today or where it is heading? Because the direction is clear, and it is not neutral. Pause for a second and comment. Do you think the US dollar will still dominate in 10 years? Yes or no? Now here's where things start to get serious. Global central banks, the same institutions that manage entire national economies, are quietly shifting their strategy. Around 73% of them now expect to reduce their dollar holdings over time. And when they move away from the dollar, they don't just leave it sitting idle. They move into something else, something physical, something permanent. Gold. Not stocks, not crypto, not promises. Gold. For over a decade, central banks have been buying thousands of tons of it every year. Why? Because gold cannot be printed, it cannot be manipulated, and it has survived every financial system in history. Think about that. The same institutions that once trusted U.S. Treasury bonds more than anything else in the world are now shifting toward gold instead of government debt. Now let's talk about something even heavier. The United States is carrying nearly $39 trillion in national debt, and the interest alone on that debt is now over $1 trillion every year. That means America is now spending more just paying interest than it spends on its military. Let that sink in for a moment. At the same time, foreign countries, the ones that once eagerly bought U.S. debt, are slowly stepping back. And when demand for debt drops, the cost of borrowing goes up, which leads to higher interest rates, higher mortgages, higher credit card payments, and higher financial pressure on everyday Americans. This is not theory. This is already happening. And here is where it becomes personal. The value of the dollar itself has been weakening globally. That means your money buys less than it did before. And most people don't even notice it until it slowly shows up in their daily life. Groceries, rent, fuel, loans. This is not one problem. It is a chain reaction. Weaker dollar, less global trust, higher debt pressure, rising costs for everyone. But this is not just about economics anymore. It is geopolitical, because countries are not just drifting away from the dollar. They are actively building systems to replace it. BRICS nations, including China, India, Brazil, Russia, and others, are expanding rapidly and now represent nearly half the world's population and a massive share of global GDP. And they're not just growing, they are building alternative financial systems, new payment networks, new trade routes, new settlement systems that do not rely on the US dollar at all. And that changes everything. Now, here is something most people have never been taught. For decades, oil was priced in US dollars. That system, known as the Petrodollar, forced every country to hold dollars just to buy energy. That constant demand kept the dollar powerful for generations. But now, that system is starting to weaken. Some major oil producers are quietly exploring trade in other currencies, reducing their reliance on the dollar system. And when oil moves, the world moves with it. Now, let's be clear about something important. The dollar is not collapsing tomorrow. There is no sudden crash coming next week. But that is not the real danger. The real danger is slow decline. A world where the dollar is still used, but used less, where fewer countries need it, fewer central banks hold it, fewer transactions depend on it. And over time, that quietly reshapes global power. History has seen this before. The British pound once dominated global finance, just like the dollar does today. But it didn't collapse overnight. It slowly lost dominance until one day it wasn't the center of the financial world anymore. And by the time people fully realized it, the shift was already complete. And that brings us to today. The world is not dumping the dollar in panic. It is slowly walking away from it, one decision at a time. One trade agreement, one central bank decision, one financial system at a time. And when enough of those decisions accumulate, the privilege disappears. So here's the question I want you to think about. Do you believe America can maintain its financial dominance, or is the world already moving into a new system? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if this made you think differently, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because sometimes understanding what is happening early makes all the difference later.